So I'm sorry.
17 million people losing their health care is a reason to curse. We just heard tens of millions of
Yeah.
people that are going to lose their life because of US aid. Um, that's another reason to curse. I mean, so there's a lot of reasons to curse. So if you're sensitive, like, I don't know, have some a cup of tea or do yoga or some shit. I don't.
I'm trying to be calm, saying I don't want
Yeah, yeah,
to
no, no,
start
no. I mean,
conversations.
I don't really think that this is a time to be calm, right? Because a lot of fuckery is happening. So I think you have an appropriate response. It's some fuck shit. It's some fuck shit. Like,
I'm gonna console myself by watching MAGAs on wherever they are on social media, talking about how it harms them in the coming weeks. Because that's the only thing that's gonna get me through these next 3.5 horror years and what lies beyond. We don't know.
Yeah, I'm praying for a lot of people, April, folks, in these rural areas and smaller towns. Some folks who are on the news talking about here that their rural hospital could close. They would have to drive 73 miles into Dallas, Fort Worth, which that sucks.
That's gonna happen to the
it
care
is
of Dallas
actually.
Fort Worth, then taking on those extra people. You
We,
know what I'm saying?
yeah, I don't.
There's a certain capacity every hospital has. I don't care how big you are. There's only so many beds that you can
Oh, I
cover,
see.
depending on how much staff you have present that day. I used to work in hospitals, and census is a daily thing. Sometimes a 3 times a day thing. Check.
On people, yeah. So I mean, look, hey.
Honestly, I think if you're in a rural area and you voted for this, you should get exactly what you're looking.
Yeah,
That's
it's
crazy.
it's not only gonna close hospitals, but it's gonna be people in the healthcare field are basically gonna lose their jobs because once this Medicare is cut down, a lot of these places ain't gonna be able to stay afloat anywhere, and that's gonna say, okay, well, we need less staff because we can't get the people, and there's nobody to come in, so less staff. They're gonna start cutting everything, so it'll be a spiral down effect. This industry is doomed. I'm just keeping it real. We had a discussion about it at work today. We know what's gonna happen. It's just obvious. And I hate to have the whole doom and gloom thing, but it's like it's the same thing that was in the financial field. It's like I've been in each field, and you understand how the money flows, and you understand how the money flows. You know what's going to happen next, and what's going to happen after that, and what's going to happen after that. It's pretty obvious. They just screwing us over by one fucking spending bill.
So you mathematically know that tariffs are horrible. Since you were in the financial field, there was a Republican in another room saying tariffs are great and they're going to benefit us. And I'm like, dude, no. When have tariffs ever benefited America? And crickets in the room. It's just another talking point, believing that we will all have a trickle down effect from tariffs. No, we're eating the high prices of tariffs, which Donald Trump said that he would essentially not be the high price president, which now that has been a failure, and said he would not put us into some kind of war, which that has been an utter failure. This is not looking good for us all the way around. Those folks who are Republican, now you want your vote back, and now you want your ticket back. At the end of the day, y'all voted for this fool, y'all gonna have to make it happen.
Well, currently I'm in the healthcare field, not in the financial anymore. But the people that get hit first when it comes to these tariffs are definitely going to be your front workers in retail. Like that's where it all starts. And of course, all of the ports and things like that, they get hit hard with all of this because, again, less shipments, less spending, less everything because you can't raise things and people just don't spend less. This is that's what happened on the front end retail side. As far as this particular spending bill, and there's so many parts to it that's just insane. But specifically the SNAP bill and the health care cuts, as well as the tax cuts, that's going to hit everybody, and it's going to be simultaneous. So Good luck, yo. I said this shit, like, didn't I say all of this shit back in November? I was like, yeah, by the end of this year, we're going to reach a fucking recession. I said this shit. I mean, it's like not that hard to get. And it's coming from the guy who went to what school? Walton in business and economics. That guy, he did this.
I'm not sure about the recession, no, Royal. I'm not on board with that. The percentages of hitting a recession have dropped significantly. So I'm not as convinced on that. And also, we're just going to have to, in the future, eat tariffs anyway. Even if there's a Democratic president elected in 2028, you're going to probably have to keep tariffs, because if you look at the annual deficit every year now, it's increasing at such a pace that soon it's going to crowd out all spending if you don't increase revenue. So revenues are going to have to be increased, and you're already going to have to do some tough cuts at some point. So you'll probably have to accept tariffs as a way to increase revenue for the treasury.
Matt doesn't want to increase revenue.
CEO, I think you're forgetting.
Hold on, I'm asking CEO a question. How are we going to increase revenue? Tell Matt how we're going to increase it.
Well, yeah, you're going to have to increase corporate taxes, most definitely, and at some point you are going to have to tax the top 1% more. I mean, at some point you can't avoid it at some point.
Now, this bill is going to cut that out.
Oh, no, let me explain that. Okay, so thank you. Okay, so thank you for saying. Let me explain this, because this is like one of the biggest tricks that's being communicated. So when it says it only is adding 2.8 trillion to the debt, it's saying 2.8 trillion on top of what the projected debt already is. So over the next 10 years, we're going to already add about 13 trillion to the debt. This is an additional 2.8 trillion on top of that. So over the next 10 years, we're looking at 16 trillion in debt, which will put us around a $53 trillion national debt, which means that the annual payments for that, the interest payments, are going to be so high, it's going to crowd out social programs.
So it's what, 37 or 34?
Defense. By the time you pay for defense and entitlements, that's going to be 90% of your budget. We're barely going to have any money for anything else unless you increase your revenue.
Yeah.
Or you start cutting defense spending.
Yeah, so
Billy Bob
is it 34 trillion right now? 37.
37. It's 37 right now.
But the biggest thing I think we're missing is the high tariffs that Donald Trump wants to come in hot with. We should, if you have a Democratic president, at least lower those tariffs. You may not get rid of all of them or whatever.
We lowered tariffs and we already lowered taxes.
Well, Donald Trump is talking about...
We got to get some revenue from somewhere.
Yeah, we do, and we don't tax the rich, and we don't tax a lot of corporations. ExxonMobil, these big corporations, you do the math, that could be a lot of money pumped into the country that we don't. They can get it from ExxonMobil. You can get it from ExxonMobil and places that don't pay. You understand? When you do their math for that, they don't pay a lot of tax either. They offshoot that money offshore, and so a lot of that money they don't have to account for. That's also something the government can go after. They can go after people who have that money offshore and go get that money and make folks pay taxes on money offshore and all that stuff. So yeah, looking at that too. There's where you get your money from too.
Well, first of all, when it comes to the tariffs, that's all consumption tax, right? So
it is.
The thing about that I'm saying, and I was trying to explain earlier with CEO, is there's going to be people spending less. It's going to be less consumption, because why? People are not going to have any money. You cut SNAP benefits, money gets rerouted to the consumption money gets rerouted. You're going to take whatever little change you get and get the food you get. You got to basically pay for your kids' lunch and breakfast that you didn't have to pay for, when you send them to school every day. The SNAP benefits are cut, so now that's got more money coming out of your pocket. So that means you're buying less things, even the things that you need that are made in other countries. That's gone. So you can just eliminate that whole thing right there with the tariffs. It just doesn't matter. The other part of it is the fact that there will be jobs cuts because of things like the Medicaid programs being cut down. We're talking about 16 million people losing their benefits, well, guess what? Not only those people are going to have to somehow come out their pockets, if they have any pockets for this, but all of the workers who would have been able to take care of them, they're not going to have any money, so they're going to cut those jobs. And that's across the board on all different levels. We're talking about from healthcare providers that are physicians, administrators, down to the janitor. They're all going to get cut because they're losing a method of payment that was by a whole bunch of Americans in need. It's gone. And on top of that, all of the mechanisms of regulations are gone too. All of that's gone. That's out the window.
So which is crazy, Will. Which is crazy that if we impose a different tax on the 1%, like they was just saying, I'm pretty sure that would take care of it. You not charging Elon Musk. I live in the Bay Area where it's a Tesla dealership, and they don't even charge them fools taxes. Like, but you charge all the workers taxes? That shit don't make sense to me. I don't get it.
Well, it's not that
So
they don't get paid.
Obama in the chat said something very interesting. If consumption is going up, are you fucking joking right now? Come up here and explain, because I don't understand what you mean consumption is going up. I guess he's gone. He left.
It doesn't matter what consumption is doing right now. I'm talking about what's going to eventually happen as tariffs takes its place. Remember, tariffs are still coming online even up to this month. It's not like it just like hit in one shot and all of a sudden everything went up in one shot. No, by the end of the year, everything's you're gonna see the prices increase.
So it did shoot up before the tariffs, and that was because people.
Right, but not everything.
Right. So now it's down.
What's the argument? Because I kind of.
Well, it's not a contention. It's just the fact that it's making the realization of what these policies are going to cause. And what I'm arguing is it will go to a recession because people will lose jobs, will be less spending. Hey, there's less money to spend to begin with, and then you have less tax dollars, and the government seems to be cutting funding for various programs that includes academic programs, R&D, all of these different things that the government was paying for when it comes to schools and kids, Head Start, all this stuff is gone. They're wiping it all away. So less money means less jobs, less spending, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, but Royal, like, the economy is a lot more. Who is this background? Okay, the economy is a lot more intricate than it used to be. So when you look at the gig economy and how that continues to expand, and when you look at the global economy and how many more opportunities there are, you can't just predict a recession like we're looking at the world 15 years ago. So again, the expectations for a recession have gone down significantly, and the odds are after some of these trade deals are completed, the economy's going to probably go up. So I don't agree with you on that.
When you talk about
How
the gig
is the
economy,
gig economy? I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I'm in the gig economy as well as I have a 9 to 5. And in my gig economy, I can tell you exactly what it looks like, okay? I'm a DJ, right?
Stuff is not important.
I'm a DJ, for instance, right? Like, all of my clientele are either stores or rich people. I'm not getting any middle class clients at all. Like, they just can't even afford me, like, at all, because it's completely different from what it was even 2 years ago. Like, which means I'm making less money because I'm losing all of those clients. They just can't afford to pay the rates. So now what?
Yeah, so the gig economy's I can. The gig economy's up.
I'm going to ask you to explain, but go ahead. All right.
Okay. The gig economy is up 20% in 2025 compared to 2024. And Royal, what's happening, and I'm seeing this in my business, by the way, is a lot of people are holding their money right now. Or they don't feel comfortable spending it because of the level of uncertainty. And I met with I'm in a CEO peer group, and many of us are going for the same thing. So it's not that a lot of businesses, they have the money, but they're not spending it. So once the tariff thing gets, if that ever truly gets settled, then you're going to see a lot more liquidity in the marketplace.
So people don't.
Okay, thanks. So my question was, I don't understand how you're factoring the gig economy into stemming a recession. That's my first part. And then the second part related to that is when you said the people are holding their money, those are people who have money to hold, right? But when you're talking about, because we know like the economy is primarily driven by the people who have the least amount of what is it called? I don't know my words now. Expendable cash or whatever the right term is. So I don't see how your analysis fits those people who don't have money they can sit on, who literally their outgo is in essentials. How does that and the gig economy stem a recession? I'm confused on that.
Okay, so I have data on the first point, and not so much the second one, so I'm going to let that be. On the first point, what ends up happening is we used to be in an economy where if you didn't have a full-time job, or if you didn't have a small business, then you were SLL, right? But now, this alternative with the gig economy gives you another way to generate revenue. Anyone can be an Uber driver, etc. So it allows people to find work and to get multiple things for them. So that has created more elasticity in terms of what job opportunities, income earning opportunities are. So that shift plays a big role in the economy compared to 10, 15 years ago.
But okay, so people lose their jobs and they go and drive Uber. Who's riding in these Ubers?
The rideshare economy. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Rideshare economy and the food delivery economy, etc. All these things collectively are trending up, right? Because people are becoming more accustomed to using them. So this is all trending up. It is nowhere near its peak because there's still the education side of this happening. This market is only going to grow more. So the demand in this market will continue to go up. And you now have walking cities, and I'll give you one example. You now have walking cities where a lot of developers are beginning to basically say, okay, we don't have to worry about people having cars, right? This used to just be a thing in New York City, but now it's in Vegas, it's Nashville, and other places where we're building communities where you assume your tenants aren't going to have cars, and they basically are going to ride share everywhere. So this is beginning to come into urban planning.
Okay, so like I hear a lot of spin. I'm sorry. Let me first agree before disagreeing. I agree that the recession indicators were blinking much more brighter red earlier before some of the trade, like restoration of some certainty in trade deals. I think we'll still to see, but if we look at different forecasts, they moved the forecasting down to like 38%. Like JP Morgan took down the forecast for recession from 60% during the most chaotic Trump announcements, right, to now to 40%. So I guess 40% is better than 60%. I agree with you there. But my next point would be on the savings. So people deferring investment or consumption and sitting on their savings is oftentimes indicative of slowdowns or recessions in the economy, because some people's saving is other people's lost income because it's not spent the economy, it's not spent into other people's pockets, right? So that's definitionally slowdown. Whether slowdown is a recession, like we'll get to that in a second. the other point, gig economy, yes, does provide.
Can we focus on your savings point for 1 second before you go to the gig economy?
Yeah.
Okay. So that point actually supports what I was trying to say, which is a lot of people are sitting on their money right now because of the uncertainty, but I expect that money to get deployed by the time we get to Q4, because if the tariff situation is resolved, people will feel more.
Sure.
I have a question.
Can I finish my point?
Yeah, go ahead, Phil. Go.
My bad.
Yeah. The deployment of later, it's still mistimed in the quarterly economy, right? That's why whatever happens, right, you have already slowed down GDP forecast for an anemic year of growth in the United States. So whether you hit the recession, you don't hit the recession, all of this is bad, right? I don't understand why we're trying to find a silver lining to a slowdown in economy, and that's to my second point. Yes, the economy does create some elasticity for the rest of the economy. That doesn't mean it's a good thing, because it's a precarious work when people go into that work when they don't have better opportunities in a slowdown or a recession, right? That's why gig economies above trend participation correlates also with slowdowns or recessions, right? So why are we celebrating? Okay, I guess it's a good thing to have an elastic pool of jobs that people can do, sure, but is it a good thing?
Well,
overall, no.
the good part about it, though, Phil, is that now you have people who otherwise just wouldn't have income, who do have income. So you have some people who, like they may have been staying at home for whatever reason, and now they can do gig work. Or you have people who are in between jobs, and normally they just would be collecting unemployment. They can do gig stuff. So that is the transit.
See, I understand what you're saying, but that's like these, and I can reply.
Very rare,
that a lot of people getting out of work is good for me because it's going to lower inflation, and the lower inflation is good for economy. And I can spin that all of the Trump policies are anti-inflationary because they drive United States economy into recession, but it's good because
I'm not trying to go.
There's a limit to, I'm not saying you're defending policies, but maybe too much silver lining in there.
Think about this policy. I mean, or this question or thought. You have a lot of Americans, when you do the math on aggregate, a lot of Americans don't even have $1,000 to hold on to. So you're talking about the 3% or a pool of people who have the money to sit on. That's fine for those who have it, or liquidity, or whatever the case may be. That's good for you or whomever may have that, but a lot of other people do not have a backup retirement or savings or this kind of stuff. Those are the people that sometimes, most of the time, they're not going to concern themselves with Wall Street when they are financially sinking to try and raise their head above water there. That's a problem that some of these market folks sometimes don't think about when you see people struggling in Main Street. You folks do talk about the market and all of this, and those arrows blink bright and they were green, Dow Jones and all that, up, great, but the average American's like, okay, because that's something I want y'all to think about and stuff. I do math, I look at that stuff. Yeah, it's great for those who like it or whatever, but it's also a lot of charts and it can be boring. At the end of the day, most Americans ain't reading no charts and they ain't looking at no stock market. So that's something I want you to think about, especially for those who may not have even an average $1,000 to $2,000 on average in their savings account. That's something to think about. That's some big math, and it's a lot of people in aggregate in that math that fit that.
I guess one of the things we have to think of is what does success look like for the economy, right? Because if we go back to the Clinton years, we had budget surpluses, we had an internet boom, we had stock market. Yeah. We had a stock market going up. We had low unemployment. And do you know only 59% of Americans were satisfied with that economy? So, like, if that gets you 59% satisfaction, well, how can you do better, right? So it seems like structurally, it just seems like structurally, with capitalism, with our economy, like you're gonna always have some challenges.
That's the last time that the 1%, 5%, whatever percent they want to say was taxed.
Right. Yeah.
So if we go back to a time where they're taxed, then we can get back them surpluses and shit like that. But we can't because they want to hide.
Right.
Yeah, they want to hide. They want to hide their money.
Yeah, no, I hear you. But what about the fact that only 59% were happy with that economy?
But you shifted to consumer satisfaction, which wasn't, or maybe I'm confused because I didn't think that was the issue.
That was not what we were talking
a different
about.
measure. I thought we were talking about. I'm sorry.
I was agreeing.
I can't.
Go ahead, Dr. AG. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I thought you were dealing just sort of with the quote unquote like abstract or the objective like numbers in the economy more so than how people feel about the economy, because that's a different conversation. I think when you talk about like consumer satisfaction or whatever. Or did I miss something?
Well, I was responding to Ashton because Ashton was pointing to the amount of people who, are experiencing some level of challenge, right? And so what I was just saying is, like, I don't know what the definition of a successful economy is, based on, like, what do we call a successful economy?
I mean, first of all, not shutting down the programs that keep people out of poverty. You have this bill that's going to shut down a lot of programs that help uplift children and their families out of poverty. I read a lot of that bill, and it's embarrassing.
Hold on for a second.
Sorry.
Hold on for a second. Yeah, but that I think that goes off. I don't know. Okay.
Let me give a short answer to that. Right? Moderately targeted inflation rate around 2%. Some people prefer slightly higher, some people prefer slightly lower, but around that number. High GDP growth, right? Or at least trendline GDP growth, 3%, something around that point at least. Maximum employment, right? And let's cut with that.
What percentage is maximum employment?
Well, what Federal Reserve considers full employment, let's go by that metric.
So what is that, like 4% unemployment?
I think it's lower, but yeah, I think it's around that number.
Okay, yeah, so in that scenario, Philip, like, will there still be people who are struggling, and will politicians still be able to say, not enough Americans are doing well and Americans are struggling, etc.?
Yeah, of course, and they should have targeted policies to alleviate the
That's what I'm saying. Thank you. That's what I'm saying. Absolutely. Policies make things work for those on the bottom as well. You can't just have a bunch of policies that work for those on the top and those on the bottom are failing and dipping more into poverty, or those who have student loans are now having to eat that. That's the stuff I'm talking about. That's not okay. And that does create a lot of problems.
But the challenge...
I'd rather say it like this. We now have policies that will possibly put people at danger, put people income security, people who are fully employed, people who are able to handle the economy the way it is at this point. And now with these particular policies, it probably won't. That's the major problem.
Can we not move that fast? Can we not move that fast, maybe? And like my basic 3 points, we can talk about income inequality, economic mobility, poverty alleviation, and all of that in a second, right? But the basic 3 points that I outlined are not met by the Trump administration already.
Yeah, no, I hear you, but like, I guess the thing about it is that you're gonna still have income inequality, and so it's always gonna create the same kind of structural challenge. So, for instance, in the Black community in the early 1990s, the poverty rate was around 33%, and today it's around like 15% or so. The country as a whole, the poverty rate has gone down significantly, but I don't. In many cases, the arguments, the conversations are the same as they were 30 years ago, because what people see is the disparity. So it's not only like it's not only raising the floor, but it's like raising the floor, and you still have the disparity. So what structurally, how do you fix that?
See, I'm not catching the conversation, right? Like, are we talking about how people feel or experience things, or are we talking like some numbers that we have a certain level of confidence in and
It's a blend. It's a blend of the two things, because we're using data points, and part of those data points are tied to how people are saying or doing, how the economy is working for them. So it's both conversations simultaneously.
Yeah, can we separate them? Because, I mean,
but so for instance, if we were to separate them and go purely off an analytical perspective, then the second best period after the Clinton years was Trump 2017 to 2019, right? So go ahead.
I'm so confused, because I didn't know that the conversation was comparative. I thought there was a conversation about whether or not we are facing the potential of a recession, and what are the market, or what are the economic indicators that best allow us to answer that conversation, right? And so
I went down an Ashton rabbit hole. I can go out of it. I can go out of it. Okay, I'll come out of it.
Don't blame me. I'm not sending y'all.
It was your rabbit hole, Ashton. It was.
Look, it's a thought. I mean, it was a thought. But yes, you can separate it and talk about it later. I do understand that. I just brought that up because not everybody has money to sit on. That's what I was saying, because they were talking about people holding their money, and I thought there are some people out there that may not have money to hold. That's all I was saying.
I just want to let y'all know CEO loves the rabbit hole.
CEO's in here? Hi.
You talking to me? What's up?
Hi, you're in here. Hi, that's what I said.
Oh, got it.
CEO.
Not Mel throwing me under the bus 2 weeks ago.
I don't know. You was loving that rabbit hole yesterday.
CEO, what I had said was about the taxes and shit.
Somebody called my name. Who was it?
It was me, Dr. A.G. April. I was wondering what is going on. I needed to hear you say that.
I'm like, what's going on? Like, can you hear it? Like, I'm like, what's happening?
Well, Dr. A.G., I hope you appreciate that I self-declared a rabbit hole.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
See, I mean, that sounds like a clear and present thing that could happen, and it's being like glossed over by, you know what I'm saying, by everybody. It's like, this is.
What is it?
I just was talking about the taxes that could be imposed on the 1%. Or 5% or 10% or whatever it is. No, the elites, the people that had the oligarchs in this country.
Right, but when is that gonna happen?
The people that don't pay taxes, but they make us pay taxes.
Right, but
the everyday person.
right. Right, but hold on. But that's not an option that we're facing. Or did I miss something that happened in the news recently? Somebody's background is loud.
Miss Diesel.
Oh, okay.
My bad.
Like, yeah, we can say, well, if this, if that, if this. What do the people say on the if was a fifth?
No, Doc, I just was using that as a solution. I wasn't, you know what I'm saying? I was saying that could be a solution. That's what was happening when we did have a surplus that he was just talking about. When we had the money.
Right, Diesel, but that's not an option. Like, it's not a reasonable option. It's not a part of what anybody who's making this decision is considering at the moment. Right? Like, nobody, that's what I'm saying, unless I missed something, nobody has introduced that as a resolution to the impending effects of the big beautiful bill.
Yeah, not in this bill,
So-
not by what I read.
So
You're
that's
right.
what I thought, like, we were talking about. Like, what? But now I'm confused. So I'm gonna go on mute, because maybe I wasn't listening.
I mean, you're right. In this bill, they're not going to tax the rich or the elite or whatever. That's not. In fact, they're getting more relief or whatever you want to call it. So I didn't see anything in that where it says they're going to be taxed really in any kind of way. As far as I was concerned, I didn't see anything like that.
I do think.
What now?
We can't hear you. Can you take the pillow off your mouth?
Have this.
Take your mouth off the pillow.
Then you got some nuts in his mouth for you.
Here.
Half this country needs to pay federal income tax.
We fucking can't hear. Somebody.
He's saying 40 cents of it.
It's like,
But they pay other
Here's
taxes,
that.
right? Those used to
yeah, and plus, like,
Fucking bullshit.
yeah, you love to drag poor people, bro. You do. It's weird. A lot of poor people are, guess what, self-employed. Self-employed people they have to pay their own self-employment taxes. They have to pay taxes. Like, what are we talking about? Those maids that you see that work for themselves, they pay taxes even though they don't get paid that much, right? So what are we talking about, right? The domestic workers, I have clients that are laundry ladies, right? So they're self-employed, they pay taxes, even though they're very, they don't make that much. So I know you love saying this, you love repeating the same shit over and over. Like, you magically think it's gonna come true, but it's not.
It's facts.
It's not. It's not. It's
Well,
not.
no, he made there's a very
Leadership for living.
Somebody open the window so I can jump out.
And I'm in the fucking trenches every day helping low income taxpayers. So no, you're not gonna fucking keep repeating the same bullshit.
Well, get ready to catch me, because I'm about to jump.
I got you, girl. Just put some maggots out, okay?
Oh my God.
I don't know if the parachute gonna save me from a 4-story home, but
Being poor is a tax in itself. Being poor in America is a tax in itself.
But when Elon Musk
Wait a
gets
minute,
like 10
I
seconds from
have
the
a
government,
question.
don't nobody say.
okay, I have a question for Matt real quick. I just want to know if he's going to be honest. Have you seen the latest news regarding Iran and what they found? Like, they got satellites saying people moving around and the trucks, and they got cranes and stuff. Have you heard the latest news on that?
Yeah.
That it wasn't completely obliterated?
That it was, their nuclear capacity is close to zero.
Oh, you got the information that there's some movement, but you got some additional information saying that their nuclear is at 0.
Close to 0. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, resume.
I heard Iran's got a thing on Trump and Netanyahu. I don't know, 4th of July is coming up, but
I mean, at this point, just tell them that yes, Iran has 0% nuclear capacity, so they don't accidentally resume the war. It's zero capacity, man. It's 0.
Well, why are they saying that it's not? Why are they saying that they moved their stuff before that happened? And I mean, we all hearing conflicting things because I for sure can pull up an article right now that says that they moved they stockpile before they even got bombed.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's gonna say the thing that makes them look the best. So we're going to continue to hear conflicting narratives, and you just have to assume that the truth is somewhere triangulated between the 3 different stories.
I read that Donald Trump wants the DOJ to go after CNN for reporting opposite.
Yeah, that's the thing, I guess. The worrying stuff is that the intelligence community is debating this stuff in through leaks, and this is not a good look for the intelligence community. I guess military is not as implicated as the intelligence community, but the leaks are. I mean, I don't think we should prosecute people, but the fact that there seems to be widespread disagreement on the results of the strike within the US government itself.
Trump told you in Helsinki that he didn't believe his intelligence people, and he meant that first time around.
But they said they were going to wait on the Israeli investigation. And I was listening to the Israeli investigation, and it doesn't say what Matt is reporting. So I'm just, I'm confused. I don't know what to believe these days. Hey, Deborah.
Don't believe Matt. yeah, man.
Hey,
No, have you guys seen? Hey, have you guys seen TNN? Has that news reporter been around?
What's TNN?
Trent.
Oh yeah, you was in PhD room earlier.
Oh, I haven't seen him. I thought TNN was taking a vacation.
Since I yelled at him, he ain't been back.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's probably broadcasting on the other side. He's scared of Denver. Denver done dragged him to film.
I mean, if he needs an apology, just send him my way.
Yeah, I will apologize if he's scared, but I don't think that's it. I'm harmless.
No, I think he was really pissed from me yelling at him because he left and never came back. All right, anyway, you asked about Trent, now what?
He'll be back on that Johnny Walker soon. For you, First Lady, you come back.
Oh, whatever. It grinds my gears. Hello?
What's new, guys? Because my eyes is closing already. What's new?
All right, are we going to talk about this clubhouse town hall that nobody
Oh, that was bullshit. That was bullshit. That was the first one I joined and probably the last one I'll join.
That was bananas.
What
I was thinking,
I'll talk about it because I was in the
So you're supposed to send me.
We missed.
You're supposed to send Q